This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of effective copywriting. One more week and you're done with the writing class. That's good. But it doesn't mean you're done writing forever. As you know, you've got a bunch of more classes to go through, 8, I think. And you'll be writing in every one of them. So everything that you learned this month, please carry forward into your next classes, because the deeper you can create those rationales, the more that you use your research to back up your claims, the better you're going to do in these classes. This week we're going to be writing and finishing up our research paper that hopefully you guys started last week, and it's all about your campaign that you've designed for your nonprofit organization. Excuse me. Um, I also want to talk a little bit tonight about writing for new media and the types of opportunities that are out there if you have writing skills, and you all have writing skills. I've seen it. So you can monetize those skills by looking for new opportunities. And by new media, we mean all forms of digital communication. So we have, print communication, we have digital communication, we have oral communication. So it's all about communicating effectively and getting that message out clear and concise and understandable. So like any type of writing, when you're writing for interactive or any other type of digital media, you have to understand what media you are writing for. If it's journalism or copywriting, you know your audience is going to be reading it. But if it's going to be heard like on radio or on narration, then you have to think about how your writing can be descriptive enough to intrigue an audience, because they're only hearing the words. Sometimes you're writing to be seen. So if you're writing presentations or doing videos or digital media projects or transmedia projects, that's writing that needs to be seen and heard. So you have to have really good communication skills. Things out there that you can be using your writing skills for are blogs, articles, interviews, briefs, scripts for video, scripts for radio, social media. Everybody is doing digital media. A lot of companies need help with their writing. It's something that they usually freelance out, or they combine the positions like they did when I was at the PBS affiliates. I was the art director who did all the writing. So you have to understand what it is you're writing for and the opportunities that are out there. But as with any type of writing, it doesn't matter what media it's in, you have to be aware of good writing. And that means checking your grammar, your spelling, your punctuation, making sure that you're writing in a concise manner and that your communication is clear. If you're working on, say, a branding project, you want continuity, so that voice and tone of the brand is going to resonate through every piece of media that's out there representing that brand. So continuity is really important. You want to think about using active sentences. Active sentences don't have the words will be. This ad will be seen by. It is going to be seen by. So you want to make sure your sentences are active, and you want to make sure that you're being creative, that you're pushing yourself beyond the obvious. My pet peeve is make a difference. So let's talk about writing for the web. There's a difference between writing for print ads. I apologize, my husband just walked in and the dog went crazy. When you're writing for the web, people who go to the web are looking for something completely different than people who are reading print. So you want to think about how the websites, the reader of websites is scanning for information. They usually come to a website purposefully or maybe accidentally, but they want to be able to find out who and what they are right away. So you're going to think about writing in an inverted pyramid. That means you're putting the most important information first, and then you're going to go down in the order of importance. So make sure they're seeing the most important thing that they came to the page for. So some tips for writing for the web. mean that your website visitors are coming for information, so it's your job to make sure that the website offers what they can find easily. So again, put that most important information first. Make sure the sentences are concise. Don't make them read through a whole lot of words just to find out what the site is about. And don't try to be overly creative or overly wordy. You want to make sure that your message is clear. That's the most important thing, that you understand your target audience and that message is clear, because they're not reading every single word or hanging on every single word that you write. So keep this in mind. People don't read websites, they scan them. So you want to make sure that if you're using a headline, that it clearly communicates what's going on that page. Make sure that there's synergy happening between image and text. You want to make sure if you're using subheads that they summarize your key points. And the best way to be concise with copy is to use easy to scan bullet points to reduce that wordiness so that you're not using a lot of repetition. When you're writing for the web, remember, people don't like to read a lot of copy. It happens with all kinds of advertising. But with the web, you don't want to overwrite it and be like using an academic tone unless you're doing an academic website. So if you're trying to sell something or raise money for something, you want to write in a familiar voice and tone that the audience understand. Remember, short paragraphs, I always say 4 sentences at the max for the web. And those sentences themselves should be short, with like 12 words or less. Walt Whitman said the perfect poetic line was said in one breath. My thought is, if you can read your sentence aloud and you don't gasp for breath, it's the right length. If you have to gasp for breath in the middle of your sentence, then your sentence is too long. So when your sentence is too long, you want to go back and look at unnecessary words, repetitive words, jargon, passive tense, needless repetition. Remember, they are coming to your website to find information, so make sure you're addressing your reader. And also keep in mind that you don't control where they go. So if they accidentally happen upon the website that you wrote all this copy for, you have to make sure that every single page has some sort of direction on it so they know where they are. So the architecture is really important. So most web visitors aren't going to like start at the home page and then click to the about page and then click to the volunteer page and then click to the donate page. You want to make sure that if they skip around, they always know where they are, and make sure that they know that if it's a website for a nonprofit organization, that donate page should be obvious on every single page so that they can just click a button and make that charitable contribution. When you're creating a website for a client, you want to make sure, like the continuity that goes along with the brand, that the website also has that type of continuity and voice and tone. You also want to think about how your customer is reading the website and that all the questions that they might ask, you've already answered. So it's always good to step into those readers' shoes and read your copy through their point of view. See that everything is there that they need. Okay? And the last thing is you want to make sure you're making a visual impression. I can remember when the web was first invented and all the web pages looked the same. Matter of fact, I took my first coding class last semester, and the web page I coded looked like something from 1992. It was awful. So the technology changes, the design changes, so it's really important if you're creating something for a client that you're staying up to speed with all the latest technology and the latest design. Remember, your visual impression is important. Those words and pictures should work together to create that synergy. For some advice on writing for the web, there's a lynda.com tutorial called Writing for the Web. And in your textbook, George Felton has a good chapter on interactive advertising and social media. So that's really good. Okay, let's talk about how you present to a client. You know, this month we've worked really hard on our nonprofit organizations. We did a ton of research. We created concepts. using the power of the testimonial. A lot of you, I was really impressed with the way you use the power of fact as part of that testimonial. That's always good, because when you're trying to educate a reader, having facts is important. So now you have to present your work to the client. We've kind of structured this class so that we're kind of working towards this eventual presentation to a client. So that's how the research paper this week is playing into this scheme. So don't think of it as a research paper, except that it is an APA-style academic paper, but think of it as you preparing to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to pitching the concepts that you've created. So when you're presenting to a client, you need to understand a few things. You want to be confident. The best way to be confident is doing your research and knowing, again, like writing for the web, knowing the answers that they're going to ask and having those answers ready. Any question they ask, you know the answer to because you've done the research. If you fake it, eventually you're going to get found out, and that's going to not be good for you or the client because you probably won't get the job. So research, the reason why we're doing all this research for the research paper is so that you are prepared when you're pitching your concepts, that you can back up any claims you're making about their organization or about their target audience with the research that you created and did by looking at design research, looking at information about the website, looking at information maybe about fundraising or children's charities. So going into that room prepared is going to build your confidence. The other thing you want to do, if possible, is know who's going to be in the room. That way you can forge that connection with somebody and kind of tailor your presentation towards that person. You want to see if you can do research on the people that are going to be in the room, because what that will do is help you create a strong presentation and get them interested. So when you structure your pitch, you want to think about these few bullet points. The first thing you want to talk about is the insights you learned from the research. So talk about the target audience, talk about the goal of the campaign that you are creating, and explain how the research inform your decisions as you move forward. So explain the conclusion based on that insight. So if you've learned something new about how the target audience responds to a specific typeface or a color or a specific type of media, you know, a younger audience is going to ingest media differently than a older audience, let the client know that. So then you want to articulate your concept. You want to talk about, you design these testimonial ads, you chose these specific spokespeople to voice your testimonial and why you chose those people. So articulate like who it is, why it is, and what's happening. Then communicate how that concept will be conveyed in your magazine print ads. You want to think about how these are going to look. So you're explaining the concepts as you're showing them your sketches, or maybe you're at this next stage where we did these revisions and now you're coming back to pitch them these final ideas and get the final insights. If you want to reveal the benefit, you want to talk about why you're executing this concept in this way. I always say you have your audience that's at attention. You're doing this pitch. They're sitting there. They want you to tell them what to do. Why not pitch them other media types? So if they've stated in the RFP they want magazine ads, it's not that bad of an idea to suggest, maybe for nonprofit organizations creating a public service announcement that can run on TV stations for free, or expanding their social media presence. So state the takeaway of the campaign and how that expansion of their media plan can play into that. And then always go back to that goal of the campaign. Remember, every piece of advertising out there is meant to get the audience to do something, buy a product, call a phone number, support an organization, go to an event. There's always a goal. So make sure that your pitch always circles back to that goal. Okay. So this week we're doing a couple of different things. We are writing your reflection for your mastery journal, and you're going to work on your research paper that hopefully you started last week after you got your week 3 work done and at least did the reading and got a draft done, because you want to think about how you're not turning in a first draft here, you're turning in your final piece of writing. So go back, do the revisions. I highly recommend you spending the entire week on it. If you haven't got it started yet, get started now, because doing it all on the weekend isn't going to benefit you. Write a little bit each day. Figure out your research and how you want to research. Remember, last week I talked a little bit about how this paper is 5 to 8 pages and it's talking about your campaign. So you want to think about exactly what's going on with the campaign. Let me, as a matter of fact, call up the platform so I can show it. Wow, let's get into the platform. Slow. Let me log in on my side. Well, okay. So let me go back into week 3 and talk about the research paper. So if you go back into the 4.3.2 project, the research paper is laid out here, step by step, exactly what you want to do. So you're writing your introduction. We talked about this last week, where you're talking about the nonprofit organization, what their problem statement is, and then you're going to state your thesis. So if you have struggle with a thesis statement, here's a sample one. Then you're going to write the body of the paper in no less than 800 words, so it should cover all these bullet points. This is the background information about who the organization is, what their history is, what differentiates them from other nonprofit organizations, their competition. Remember, you did that in week 1 when you looked at Settle and Alric and posted the ads of the competition. You want to talk about your target audience, and that was covered in week 2 with your target audience profiles, which y'all did really good on. The voice and tone part of the campaign, use the research that you did in the week 1 paper and just readdress it to your campaign as opposed to the writing prompts we gave you on that paper. Then you want to talk about why this project is important. There's a reason why you are pitching this project to the client, so talk about it. Next, you're going to explore your design decisions. So you want to expand your media plan beyond the magazine print ads, but you want to sell them on why you designed these ads the way you did. So talk about the testimonial type that you used. Who's the spokesperson? Why did you use that spokesperson? Use Felton's words to define each type of testimonial that you used in your 3 comps. So think about that. Explore design research. Look at color. Look at typography research. Again, last week I said in the About section of FSO, there's a whole bunch of resources. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. Then what you're going to do is you're going to then write your, let me go into week 4. Let me go back 3. So you're going to hand it in week 4, and what you're going, oh, wait, back in week 3, I'm sorry. Oh, we just changed this, so I'm a little. So once you have your paper written and you have the whole body done and you've talked about the campaign, what you're going to do is write a conclusion. And a conclusion is basically completing that research paper and tying it up in like a neat little package. So you want to think about the key topics that you covered in the paper, restate, don't copy and paste, but restate your thesis and how you solved that problem. Remember, the thesis statement is that argument that you are proving throughout the paper. It's kind of the backbone of your paper. So once you have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion done, then you can tackle the abstract. We want an abstract that's no less than 250 words. And remember, it is a summary of the entire paper. So it should talk about the organization, their advertising problem, and the advertising solution. You're going to stick your research paper with your 5 secondary sources. Remember, you have the Felton book, you have the research from your personas, you have the research from your voice and tone paper, you have the Settle and Alric 15 catalog of needs. And you need to find 2 sources from the library, which I went over last week about how you can research in the library databases about things about your nonprofit organization or fundraising or children's charities or animal issues. So be creative and think about what's going on around your nonprofit organization so that you can find 2 sources in the Full Sail library. Then you want to put your paper in proper APA style with your title page. Remember, Microsoft Word has a template in there for APA. The only thing you have to get rid of is the table of content and then everything after the reference page. So if you use the template, it tells you exactly how to do the title page and how to do the running head. So your title page is just the title of the paper, your name, and Full Sail University. Then on page 2 is your abstract, and that should be the only thing on page 2, and it should be no less than 250 words. On page 3, you have your running head still, but you need to put the title of the paper is the first thing on page 3, centered, and then start your paper with your introduction, your body, your conclusion. And then once your paper is probably from pages 3 to 8 or 10, whatever, however long you make it, then the final page should be the references, and they're all sitting by themselves on their own page. Remember, alphabetize your entries. Don't just stick them in there. And you indent the second and subsequent lines. The reference page is double spaced and it's indented in the second and subsequent lines. So there's no extra space between your entries. The designer in all of us wants to reformulate the reference page, but you have to do it in proper APA style. Okay? If you have any questions about the research paper, just ask me, send me a note, give me some information about what you're struggling with. If it's things like finding research, shoot me an email, call me on the phone. I'm here to help you, and you should already be working on all of this already. Okay, so the Mastery Learning Project, every month we add to our Mastery Journal, and this month we're doing the same thing, but this time we're doing it a little differently. What we're doing is you're going through and walking us through the entire project for the ads. So how did you originally come up with the concept? Show us your sketches. Talk about the sketches. Why did you choose the types of testimonials that you did? Who are your spokespeople and why? Talk about your initial comps. Then talk about your revised comps, the ones you did in week 3 and how you made those changes. And then if everybody got their feedback from me today, so if you want to make final changes to the ads, go right ahead, because this is going up on your Mastery Learning Project. So eventually other people will see it. So you want to think about the readings that you did this month from the textbook. You want to think about the research from that textbook and those tutorials. Remember, I asked you before to think about what Craig Smallish said, and you're supposed to always tie back your argument to the support that comes from your research. So you want to write a 4 to 5 page reflection of your experience of creating these concepts and these ads. So don't forget to directly quote from all the research to back up your claims, and you must include relevant screenshots. So talk about your target audience. Talk about who they are and what they are doing, why they're important, how you're going to direct your campaign messaging to them. How are they going to respond to the types of testimonials that you did? Discuss those connections and use the research to back it up. Then you're going to talk about your 6 sketches and put them in the Mastery Journal with little captions on it so we know what they are. And you want to talk about how you came up with these different approaches to solving this advertising problem for your nonprofit. Now, if you think about this, everything you're doing in the Mastery Journal is the same thing you're doing in the research paper. You're basically talking about how you created these concepts, how you created the comps, how you did the changes and created these final comps, and you're talking about the research. So this all kind of works together. So after you talk about your 6 sketches, and I even give you page numbers to think about because you're going to be talking about the 6 different types of testimonials that you used, and you should quote Felton. You want to talk about your 3 initial comps. How did you choose those 3 those concepts out of the 6? How did you go about designing the comps? What was it about the images you chose, or the typography, the layout? Think about things like that. Then you're going to think about how you revised your comps, and you're going to show us the 3 revised comps. So when somebody looks at your Mastery Journal, first of all, when I look at your Mastery Journal, I want to see your process through this entire month of how you came up with these ads, starting at the beginning with the research and ending with the final comps. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. Then after you talk about everything, please list the 3 takeaways that you got from this class. So think about how you develop target audience profiles, how we talked about swipe files, how we did research in the library, how we investigated different types of media. Think about the things that jumped out to you most and talk about that as your 3 takeaways. Then you're going to get that up by Sunday. The research papers also due Sunday, so you've got this whole week to work on all of this. Your mastery journal should be up there, and then go in and go and check out your classmates' mastery journals and go ahead and give them a little feedback with it. Okay, so the resources are listed here of what you should be looking at. It was the Craig Smallish tutorials, the textbook for the class, and then writing marketing copy with Ian Lurie, which is really good. Okay. All right, any questions about anything that I covered? I don't see any chats in the chat window. I'm going to undo the mics. All right.
Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, Garland, go ahead.
All right, so for the mastery learning project and the reflection, it's basically we're taking everything we've done throughout the first 3 weeks and just culminating into something that's like a universal way of saying it, how we what we learned about not only copywriting, but how it helps us evolve into like the further classes or courses we're going into.
Right. Think about it as just explaining your process. It's almost like how you're writing the research paper to prepare you for the presentation. Here you're talking about your process, and if you just cover all these bullet points, then you're good. Okay?
All right, then.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. A lot of work to get done, and remember, your next class starts on Monday, so there's no rest for the weary. You go right into your next class, like always. I will tell you that designing research is a really good class, and Professor Bartley Argo is amazing, and he's really good. He does his go-to meetings different than mine, so expect to interact a little more. Since mine's the writing class, it's mostly words. So, but what you want to do as you're looking at each other's mastery journals, give each other some insights on the ads. Think about how you're looking at the ad as if you were the target audience, and how good is the messaging, and how clear is that call to action. So this is the point where you want to see everybody's projects. So don't forget to go back in and look at everybody's mastery journals. So make sure that you're not only posting your reflection in the mastery journal, but you're putting that working link into the FSO platform by Sunday. And if you're watching this on the archive and you're not here tonight, feel free to grab me on the phone. I could do a one-on-one go-to meeting if you want. Send me a message through the platform. I'm here to help you get this course wrapped up and put to bed so that you can walk into design research on Monday knowing that you got everything done. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.